Conservative Media peeps, it's me, John Villarreal. I'm here with Tom Baccaro, the Vice-Chairman of the California Republican Party. We just were at ground zero with the young Republicans at his house watching Barack Obama, President Barack Obama, and the Republican response to the State of the Union, and it was a shocking speech. I know I remarked, and many here in the room remarked, that this was the most craziest speech I've ever seen a president give. It was jarring at times, and I want to go to the expert here, Tom. What did you see in that speech, and what's your reaction?
Well, the reality is that he's in full campaign mode, just like he was a year ago. He showed up a year ago with a wind at his back, and at this point, basically his programs have fallen flat, but he still needs to be able to say something to the American people. And really, his speech exposes a big division with his own party, and this is the key to what's going to happen in 2010.
Okay.
The Evan Bayh wing of the party does not want what Nancy Pelosi wants.
Moderates.
And Evan Bayh being moderate, Nancy Pelosi being left.
Way out
left.
there, yeah, exactly.
And their fight throughout this year is going to cripple the Democrats' ability to demonstrate a vision for the future. And if you look closely at what Obama said tonight, he's offering, again, all kinds of government-run programs.
Oh, yeah?
And about 2
The
minutes.
Candyman's in town. Santa Claus is in town.
And about 2 minutes worth of
Right?
tax cuts. Although you got 95%, you're one of the 95%.
Right.
You got a tax cut.
All our taxes got cut, but yet state sales taxes and income taxes go up, and we're paying more at the pump and everything like that.
Yeah, so absolutely. So look, this is a campaign speech, not directed towards serious discussion. And the real question becomes, does he follow through on cap and trade? Because if he does, he's shooting himself in the foot.
Job killer.
If he follows through with the healthcare debate again, he's shooting himself in the foot. He's picking a fight with Americans. And if he goes forward with some of these other big programs that he's discussing, they're not, Evan Bayh's gonna not be able to handle that.
That's what's so weird. Like, I mean, how does he get away with still blaming President Bush and blaming the Republicans for stalling everything when they had a supermajority in there? He was running everything, a 79 vote, a lead over there in the House. I mean, and like you said, when he came in, super high, sky high approval ratings, everyone was behind him. The mainstream media tanked out for him, and he wants to blame Bush and Republicans. I mean, do you think that he can get away with that now?
In the national media today, he gets a couple of more months out of that.
Okay.
But where these things turn, and what you really got to watch for are the polls in May of this year, because it's about 5 to 6 months out that people make up their minds, consumer confidence, and what they see going forward. And if we're in the same position we are in today in May, I don't know how we won't be, because there's nothing he's done to provide a single incentive to a business owner, other than those who are directly contracting with government, which isn't.
That's the crony capitalism.
Which is a very small amount. Yeah, corporate welfare is no better than
The GMs and the Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, all of that. So, about 3 more months, people are going to make up their mind. At this point, he's below 50% in the approval ratings.
Yep.
The average loss for the president's party in a midterm election when approval ratings are below 50% is 40 seats.
Now, you just wrote an article about that in Political Vanguard, yes?
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
I know how to do it.
So here's the reality. He's going to stay at 46%. In fact, in the modern era, no president's approval rating has risen appreciably during a midterm election year. So if he stays at 46%, they're on track to lose the 40 seats, and Nancy Pelosi is going to lose her job, and I think, frankly, she'll wind up retiring. All of this could come true if the Republicans follow through with a strong agenda. I think they will.
Well, and that's key. That's the next step. Let's push it forward. So, I mean, your reaction and my reaction, this crowd's reaction was pretty similar, which is, what in the world was this guy doing? He was almost like punching people out on his own side there. It was just the most...
It was defiant.
It was defiant, and it was just bizarre. But now, you are right in the mix of it with different candidates right now in California trying to win seats, trying to get this state back on track. What do you say to these candidates now to how they win in this environment? What's the message that this party needs to push forward to make it happen in November?
Well, first and foremost, they need a unified message. They need a vehicle like the Contract with America.
I agree.
And that vehicle needs to be very clear, meaning here are the 6 or 7 things we're going to do to restore America. That's number one. Number two, it has to be very practical. Government's out of control right now. Bills are 2,600 pages, they go unread, they make no sense. So, it is essential that the reforms that the Republicans are suggesting are very practical and common sense, like no bills longer than the Constitution. If the Constitution was
Right, that worked out.
yeah, and they need to make that appeal, because if government's out of control,
Right.
then the Republicans have to show themselves in control with very simple, common sense, practical solutions.
But I think you're on it right there. People don't trust government anymore.
No,
And we
they
need,
shouldn't.
right? And we need to do things that make
Trust
them trust them. Like even the simple proposal that we did before, hey, just give us 3 days to read the bill.
Yeah, and actually, they should push longer for that. They
Right?
should push 96 hours a week, whatever it is, 168 hours, because the reality is sunlight, the openness that
Yeah,
Obama
exactly.
said he would, yeah, tell C-SPAN about that. The reality is that needs to be in there as well. They should push for a Contract with America vehicle that includes something like on the internet for 96 hours. The last thing is this agenda that they need to have has to have a governing philosophy. Right now, the Democrats are all about big government.
Yes.
The Republicans need their 6 or 7 items, clear, practical, and they must demonstrate a governing philosophy, meaning a limited government. We can succeed as individuals if government would just get out of the way. You know, remember Reagan, government is not the solution to our
Absolutely.
problems, government is the problem.
That's right.
So, when I meet candidates up and down the state now, and I did a campaign school in Santa Clara over the weekend,
Nice.
I suggested all of them that, one, when they talk to the people back east, that they ask them for that clear and concise message, but they themselves craft their own message in very practical terms, because you want to draw a contrast. You want to draw a contrast to big government with limited government. You want to draw a contrast with a government out of control with practical, common sense solutions. If Republicans can do that, and last I talked with Mike Pence, number 3 from Indiana,
Yeah.
that's what his suggestion was, then I think it's very reasonable to assume that the Republicans can pick up those 40 seats. If they don't do that, and they don't nationalize this election, remember, Scott Brown wins that election not because of Scott Brown or not because of Martha Coakley, but because the race was nationalized and the people in Massachusetts already had a bad healthcare system,
That's
so
right.
they didn't want to graduate it.
Right.
The candidates mattered less in that race than the nationalization and the healthcare issue. So Republicans need to nationalize this election.
Agreed.
If they do that, and they provide a clear agenda, then I think we can have a different Speaker of the House in the fall.
What about the whole Tea Party movement and these third parties, stuff like that? How do we, as a Republican Party, capture that energy, capture that excitement, like Scott Brown did? He was able to get a lot of their support and stave off this potential fracturing of the party, as what happened when Buchanan or Perot and all that, and walked in Clinton in the office.
Well, you got to look at some of the basic demands of the Tea Party people and decide for yourself whether they're reasonable or not. And take a look at them. One of their biggest demands: respect the Constitution. That should not be a hard demand
Right? That's
for the Republicans to do it. And what they need to do is start making the argument about how this health care bill goes past the bounds of the Constitution. What else? Taxes are too high.
Amen.
Is it too hard for Republicans to revive
Right.
the discussion that taxes
Right.
are too hard? That's right in their wheelhouse. Sort of a huge umbrella issue for them is government out of control.
Exactly.
Doing things that doesn't belong.
And not responsive to the
Doing-
people.
Bills are unread, all of those kind of
That's
things.
right, that's
a
basic.
central demand of theirs. I don't see why Republicans can't adopt those kind of things. Now look, not everything the Tea Party movement desires will wind up in a Contract with America vehicle. But they're very simple requests. Respect the Constitution,
Right.
rein in government out of control, and my favorite, taxes are too high.
Thank you.
Lower rates will produce a better economy and more revenues. Those need to be incorporated. The reason why you have fractured movements is because the consumer, voters, thinks that the parties are not being responsive and successful at leading.
Absolutely.
The Republicans need to look at that, appreciate the value in their values, incorporate some of those things, and run on a unified agenda, And if they do that and they nationalize the election properly, then, look, remember, John Anderson started with 25% in the polls when Reagan was running for president. 25%.
Right.
That's a stunning amount. That was more than Ross Perot ever got. Ross
Right.
Perot's high water mark was 19%.
That's right.
Anderson came out of the gate at 25 and did not win a single precinct, not even his own. Why? Because Reagan ran on a very clear, focused, limited government agenda
He had a game plan.
and wound up where Anderson faded away. And Republicans need to heed that lesson, understand why they should be focused while the Democrats are having a messy year.